Hey everyone, I'm Amy Connell. Thanks for tuning in to Lessons to My Teenage Self. This is the shortcut you need to thrive in your physical, mental, and spiritual health. As a personal trainer and nutrition coach, I'm passionate about empowering you to find your best version of health. Now, starting in the future, each week, we will dig into one topic that I wish I'd known as a teen. I don't know about you, but when I listen to podcasts or watch people on YouTube, I find that I enjoy it more, appreciate it more, and quite frankly, trust it more if I know the person's story, if I know just a bit more about them. I don't have to know everything. So in this episode, I wanted to quickly share my story with you. What we'll do today is I will go through my story. I'll share a few additional things you may want to know about me, and then I'm going to address the elephant in the room. Now, of course, there's a lot more that goes into this, and I can dig into it in the future, or if you are curious, you can reach out to me, but this is just kind of the high level Amy's story. So I grew up moving. I did the whole dance thing. I did tap and jazz and did that competitively, which is nothing like what it is now, but it still provided me mostly the confidence in moving my body. I find joy when I am moving my body, and that still continues to this day. In high school, I did the spirit teams thing. I did cheerleading, which again, nothing like what it is now. And then pom, and then I moved and I did drill team. And then we changed the program and it was pom. And I kind of feel like I've done the gamut. And of course, through that whole time, I was never happy or never confident in my own body. I was confident in how I could move it, but not confident in how I looked. And just as a little side note, what I've learned is I was not alone. In fact, I have not spoken to any other grown women who say, I felt confident in my body. That's not true. There are two women, of all my friends, all the women I've spoken with and all the things that I've done who have said, I felt really confident as a teen. Anyway, moving on. Back to it. So in college, I continued moving my body through doing some group fitness classes several times a week. And then after college, as a young adult, I really got more into it. I found a love of health and just enjoyed learning. And fortunately, that turned into a bit of an obsession, and an obsession with all things health. Now, at the same time, in my 30s, I was in a small group through my church and was really growing in my relationship with God and with the women in that small group. And that was kind of at the same time. So these were going along parallel. Like my heart and head was way too obsessed with health and my body and food and exercise and all the things. And at the same time, I was really growing closer to God. One day, just in the middle of me doing laundry, I heard God whisper, you are spending more time thinking about the food you're going to eat and the exercise you're going to do than you are about me. And that hurt a little, if I'm honest. Now, I wish I could say that totally changed everything. Instead, it was like the rudder on what I'm calling the diet culture cruise ship. And I'll get into diet culture in a future episode. But that was a small rudder that started to change my relationship and my perception and my understanding of why we take care of ourselves. And here's your spoiler alert. What God really taught me through a series of things, through sermons, through the Bible, through just listening to Him, was I don't take care of myself so I can get those six-pack abs that, by the way, I never, ever, ever got. I used to want abs good enough to get a belly button ring back when those were like super cool. I never got one. The reason we take care of ourselves is this: to do what we are called to do. God put us on this earth to love Him and to love others. And so we use our body to do that. Now, we'll get into this in a future episode, so stick with me if you're like, wait a minute, I want to know more about this. We'll get into that, but I want to kind of get back to my story. So once God whispered this, once I started to realize, I started changing, he called me into doing what I do now. So what's that? Well, I do a lot of things. In fact, if you ask my husband and my kids, they might be able to say what I do, but I'm not sure that they can really fully say what I do. So I'm going to tell you what I do. I equip women, both women my age and teen girls, to take care of themselves in simple and grace-filled ways so they can do what they're called to do. Now, I typically have done this under the umbrella Graced Health. So if you want to check me out on Instagram, you can go to @GracedHealth, GRACED, and kind of see what I do for the women more in my age group. But what I'm doing here is all of the things that I've learned, all of the things that it took me until I was 40 to figure out, I'm wanting to offer to you now. That's why I call this a shortcut. Now, all of what I do is done through a variety of ways. So I have this podcast, Lessons to My Teenage Self. I have another podcast for women over 40 called Graced Health. I have written 2 books. One of them is called Your Worthy Body, and that's written more for women over 40. And then in April of 2024, I have a new book for teen girls coming out called Your Core Strength, a young woman's go-to guide for eating, exercise, and empowered health. I also speak to groups. So I will speak to groups of teen girls. I'll speak to mother-daughter groups. I speak to women's association, bringing this message of reframing why we take care of ourselves. Do I get this right all the time? I do not. I do not. And honestly, it's something that I still struggle with every now and then. I get frustrated with my body sometimes. So I want you to know that if you get frustrated, if you fall into the comparison trap, like so many of us have and still do, if you wish that you could embrace and appreciate your God-created body, this is the place. This is the place, because I am here to help you not only reframe your mind, but also to give you some applicable tools and resources and science-backed information to do that. Now, I told you there are a few things you may want to know about me. So here these are. Number 1, I'm a Christ follower. Some people will use the word Christian. I just like to say that I follow Jesus. Plain and simple. I try to treat others the way that he treated others and the way that he modeled. This show is done through a lens of the Christian faith, but I want you to know that if your faith is not the same, or if you have no faith, you are still welcome here. I welcome you. I love you no matter what you believe, and if we believe the same thing. I also operate from a weight neutral perspective. What does that mean? It means that I believe that we can be healthy regardless of our size. Our health is determined by so many other things. And yes, again, we will get into this in a future episode, but our weight does not indicate our health. And so I am not here to talk about weight. I am here to talk about health. I operate from an intuitive eating standpoint. We'll talk much more about that, but basically that is relying on our body's signals, our good and wise body that God created to know when we're hungry, to eat when we're hungry, to stop when we're satisfied, and to choose the foods that make us feel and function well, not the foods that people say are good and bad foods. Stay tuned for an episode on why I do not believe there are good and bad foods. Now, a few other more personal points about me. Number 1, I love the mountains. Like, that is where my soul thrives and feels so good. Unfortunately, I live in the Houston, Texas area. That is flat as a pancake. There is no elevation except for 2 man-made hills in my neighborhood. And yes, I do get out on those, but I love being outside in nature. And if you can drop me down into the mountains, I will take it. I will take it. I've also been married to a guy I knew in high school for 26 years. We are not high school sweethearts, but we have been married a really long time. We have 2 boys who are currently 18 and 20. One of them's a senior in high school. One of them is a sophomore in college, and I love them dearly. I not only love my boys, I like them a lot. They are so wonderful. So wonderful. And then finally, our family has a stray turned princess pit bull named Grace. I like to say that God gave us Grace because she literally showed up on our driveway while my son was playing basketball and she picked us. That's another story for another day, but she is a very special and loving and sweet dog. Now, at the beginning, I talked about the elephant in the room. What's the elephant in the room? Okay, you guys, I don't know if you know this about me. If you're watching on YouTube, you do. I am not your age. And if I'm honest, I worry a bit that you're going to think that I have too much gray hair that at this very moment needs to be colored and too many wrinkles to come on and talk to you. I may not fully understand everything that you're going through. I'm just going to admit that right now. It is tough being a teen right now. It was tough when I was a teen, and it has gotten worse. And so if you are walking through that, I want you to know that you are not alone. I see you. I hear the challenges that you are going through. And if you're thinking, why are you doing this if you have two teen boys? How do you even know me? Then you're partially right. Yeah, I don't. But I do believe that God gave me boys so I would have no boundary to cross with any daughter, and I could love on you in this way, that I could come in as a trusted person who will tell you the truth and be honest with you and be vulnerable. If you haven't figured that out, yeah, I get that way. But I'm not here to be another mom. I'm not here to be a parent. I'm here to be your friend, an advocate, and any other kind word you want to call me. If you don't want to call me a kind word, that's okay, but maybe we should just part ways right now. Now, I have spent plenty of time with teens. I have trained teens because I'm a personal trainer for about 5 years. And then in order for me to write my book for teen girls, Your Core Strength, I did a lot of research. And I don't think you probably care about that, but just trust me, I've read a lot of books, I've listened to a lot of experts, and I've really tried to understand a bit more. But finally, I was a teen girl once. I remember what it feels like to be constantly second guessing your body, to be wondering who your real friends are, to think, I don't know that I have anyone else who I can really trust in this world. And I don't know if those are struggles that you have, but those are struggles that I had. I am not here to tell you what you need to be doing. I am here to empower you with the lessons that I've learned so you can navigate your life with fullness and confidence. I'm so glad you're here. And if this sounds interesting to you, and if you want to hear more about some of this, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button, and share this with your friends. And if you're feeling really generous, you can rate and review this show, especially on Apple Podcasts. That's super helpful. Okay, that's all for today. Go out there and live the life God has for you and your amazing original body. I'm super excited for this journey.